Grip combat racing reminds me of a lot of different things. First off, let's talk about when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I remembered watching these commercials for these really cool radio controlled cars that had massive tires that were taller than the car itself. And the reason why that was so cool is when you inevitably flipped your car over, you could just keep driving. I had a remote control car, but it wasn't one of those. And as you're driving it along, if it flipped over, you then had to go over and flip it back over in order to keep playing with the toy. That always drove me crazy. So I remember many, many times going into the Sears catalog and circling the flippable remote control car. Never got one. I'm not bitter about it. But Grip Combat Racing kind of gives me that thing that my childhood wanted. These cars that could flip over at any time. And it's really fun, actually. It's tough for a racing game to catch my attention for the most part because I always end up comparing all of them to Mario Kart. Mario Kart, I feel like, is the pinnacle of racing games. Then again, I'm also somebody who doesn't like realistic racing games, and Grip Combat Racing is not realistic at all. You can drive on the walls and the ceilings, just kind of like in Mario Kart, but it feels a little more realistic because it's just not so cartoonish. Let's talk about the graphics for just a second. I feel like this is its weakest point, and not because the game doesn't look good, because it does, but it almost, I'm not sure about this, but I feel like they've put some kind of filter on the game to make it look, how do I want to describe it? I guess fuzzy, kind of like if you were to use a bad camera and take a picture in a dark room where everything would kind of have like a speckled look to it. That's what Grip Combat Racing kind of looks like. I don't know if it was something that they were going for or something that they did to try and hide the blurriness of running at a lower resolution. I'm really not sure about that, but it definitely bothers me. That being said, the game is incredibly fast, so once you start driving, that kind of fades away. And as far as speed, like, this game is incredibly fast. It very much reminds me of, remember at the beginning how I said it reminds me of a couple things? Well, the second thing that it reminds me of is Extreme G Racing, which I think was on the N64. In just the blistering pace that you are driving through these environments. You don't have a lot of time to decide what you're going to do. It always feels like you're riding by the seat of your pants. And I remembered playing that game, Extreme G Racing, driving those same courses over and over and over again, and eventually memorizing when the best time to hit this button was, how is the best way to take this next turn, and doing really, really well. And that seems like the kind of game that we're looking at here with Grip. They've got a really cool aesthetic. The way everything flips upside down is really, really compelling. Very, very cool. I'm very much enjoying playing Grip Combat Racing. And it's not just a racer. You can also pick up these weapons like machine guns and rockets and shields, and shoot at the other enemies that you're driving against. It also has an arena which contains deathmatch and capture the flag and time bomb, where one character is the bomb and they have to try and take out other enemies as much as they can. In the racing mode, they've got a bunch of different options where you can do things like have every 30 seconds have a racer get kicked out of the game, whoever's in last place, to make things go really, really fast, and instead of having a set number of laps. I think that that's a really neat mode. And then they also have this other mode they call it Carcour, which is a play on parkour, where you have these really elaborate challenges that you have to get your car through, and it is very difficult to do. You can also unlock cars by leveling up, and the cars have stats like acceleration, top speed, grip, brakes, and strength, which I'm assuming strength means how much damage you can take before your car blows up or something like that. You can unlock new tires and new paint jobs, although I assumed that the tires would influence the stats, but it doesn't seem like they do. Maybe after more time with the game, I'll have figured out exactly what happens there. Overall, I would definitely say that Grip is a fun racing game. It is going to have DLC at some point. I was looking through the menu, and they have a little link down on the bottom for the Nintendo eShop. I clicked on that and it didn't show anything, but the game has a campaign mode, it has a single player mode, it has online, it has split screen. There's a lot to this game, and I think that there's going to be a lot of content for somebody who wants to play the same thing over and over again. It's a very grindy game, but it's also very fun. The environments look great. I think my favorite one was the snow one, which is funny because I hate snow. I did try and do an online match, but I couldn't get an online match. I think maybe because the game isn't out yet. But I've played other ones before where other reviewers were playing the game online, or where they had like maybe the developers playing online, but I didn't get a chance to see how online plays. I'm going to assume that it'll play pretty much like Mario Kart. Overall, I feel like the sound effects are really good, but the music feels really weak. This game is the kind of game that deserves to have a really loud, overbearing, heavy metal, hard rock style, crunchy guitar music playing in the background, especially with the futuristic, post-apocalyptic design aesthetic that they seem to have gone with. It's really cool overall, but I hate the music in the game. That being said, if you were to tell me that there were going to have a game that is like Extreme G Racing with guns and rockets, and you could drive the radio-controlled car of my dreams from when I was a kid, I would have told you you're crazy. But here it is, Grip Combat Racing. I really enjoyed what I've done so far, and I can't wait to get back to it.